live, and Nadia's not on the run. She's in the seat, the hot seat today on Smarter San Diego. Great to have you here, darling.
Thanks, honey. How are
Always
you?
great to see you.
too.
And this is one of my favorite topics. So for people who haven't seen Nadia on the run, which is your show,
Yeah.
tell us what's happening there. What's next?
You know, it's kind of, I think it was just kind of random how it came about. I think doing real estate for 20 years almost in San Diego, you meet a lot of awesome people. You, people that like help our community thrive, really. And I get questions a lot, like, what's your favorite this? Where do you go for this? You know, being a native too. So I like connecting people. I don't know if I like hosting. Like, I'm not good at it. I'm always like, Durr. But I think it's just who I am. But I really enjoy connecting people and helping people that way. So I enjoy that. So I've had some really cool people on. Master cocktail craftsman. I've had.
That had to be fun.
That was so fun. I was a little buzzed when I left. But it was great. And we've had on like a gal who does crafts for kids and has this #1 bestseller on Amazon. She's here locally in Carlsbad.
Awesome.
He was San Diego. We've had a flower shop that's just opening up in Solana. And
I saw that.
That was cool too.
Very cool.
And we have a fun boutique coming on for some fun summer looks for everybody. I'm always like, I don't have a lot of time, so I want a one-stop shop. Where can I go and get everything? And so, we found this great place that I've shopped at for years, and I'm like, why don't you just come on? And because people ask me, where do you go get stuff? I'm like, there. I go there. So here you go. Let me just feature her.
So it's basically like a cornucopia of your referrals.
Kind of,
basically.
yeah. I think so. It's not about real estate. I really just feel it's about connecting people. And San Diego is such an awesome community, micro and macro, like all of it, downtown up to Oceanside. We have really cool places to feature, and I think, I think people enjoy that. I've gotten a lot of positive feedback. If you're out there and you guys have someone that you'd love to see featured on there, message me or DM me and I'll give them a shot.
There you go.
Yeah.
Slide into those DMs, y'all. Get in there. So it's kind of like for me with being vegan and looking for vegan places to eat.
Yeah.
I feel like when people find out, like, where's your favorite spot? Like, where do you go? What's this? I have this list. Like, well, what do you want? Like gourmet, go to Kindred, and I just have this list.
Right.
So it's cool that you're doing that for people just in San Diego because it is such a vast community. There's so much new happening, and you never know when something isn't working. Like you say, I saw a couple businesses this weekend that are out of business, which is really a shame.
Yeah.
I thought they were really good, especially one of my favorite vegan food spots. It's really, really sad. But it happens, and so keeping up with that is also important.
Right, and I think promoting it too.
Yeah.
And I like, I'm always on the go, so I'm like, stay on the go, or stay on the run with me. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, where can you go quickly? Where can you, get that handled fast?
Excellent point. And speaking of on the run, this real estate market has been on a run for like 7-8 years, maybe more.
I know. You and I have talked about just alone, where's the market going so many times, or sellers being too greedy. And here we are 8 years later talking about the same thing.
I know.
When everyone's like, when's the crash coming?
Hey, I was, I'll admit that I was early. In 14 and 15, I was kind of saying like, hey, this seems a little frothy.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if this
Not
can
a quite
sustain.
settled latte.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Just
All right.
not quite there. And then here we are, 2019. Still, most people, all the data still says seller's market. A lot of people will say it's more neutral, though. What do you think?
So I think right now, and I've been waiting for this, a little bit more of a neutral one is welcomed. I think it was. I think you have buyers need to feel good about what they're doing too, and I think sellers for a long time were feeling really good, and that's fine. It was a seller's market, and I just think we're almost level, but I don't think we're quite there.
Still think advantage seller.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, and well, on one condition, they price it right.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing a lot of that not happening. We're up 35% on days on market from last year.
Really?
That's insane to me.
Yeah, that doesn't help with price appreciation. I mean, all that leads to when you see days on market extend.
Yeah.
It leads to lower prices usually.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's the indicator that is.
Yeah.
Because you're going to get your best offers usually early.
Right. I try to tell sellers this all the time. I actually just had a listing presentation. This house is beautiful. It's large, very well maintained, in a great area, very hot area. Has some road noise. It's the only downfall with it. So an appraiser would probably I've seen an appraiser give a $10,000 discount for value on road noise. A buyer gives it much more because that buyer has to deal with that. I've seen a buyer give it about 50. So that's kind of that's about it. They want a discount for that. The seller most likely got a discount when they bought it. So in all fairness, now they have to do the same. And, if we could get a little less than that, that'd be great. On paper, when you look at your Redfins and your Zillows that just grab numbers and throw them together, they don't account for that, right? They don't account for maybe there's power lines. They have their algorithm that comes in and goes, if this, then this. And that's why they're inaccurate a lot of times. And they're never the same. If you look at Realtor, Redfin, Zillow, they're always, different. So that's tough for them to do. So what she said to me was, I don't mind if we stay on the market for a while. And I'm like, no, that's the last thing you want, because in your case specifically, you have road noise. And if a buyer comes on in 2-3 weeks and sees that this property's still on the market, they're going to say, what's wrong with it? And they're going to say that road noise is the issue.
Especially 2 to 3 months later.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
2 to 3 months later, you're still on the market.
Right.
People are going to go, yeah, no one wants this place because they think the road noise is too bad. How could I possibly be the one?
So they won't even go look at it, and it's actually not that bad, but it's there. So some people don't mind it. I've lived in a home that had road noise, and over time you get used to it. It's like not a big deal. But some are very sensitive to it. But I'll tell you this: they won't come in and they won't give you your price. Now they want a big discount because they know you've been sitting on the market. So I think the key when pricing your home, and I've said this forever, is pricing it just a shade under. And so you drive, and in fact, I did that with one of the neighboring homes in that community. And we went $35,000 over, which was over what that seller had told me they wanted. And I said, great, well then let's go with this. But I think people have a hard time doing that.
Yeah.
And they'll chase the market down.
You know why?
Why?
So this is, I know you're out of town. My last seminar I did on seller psychology was totally about that. They don't want to haggle. That's why sellers a lot of times will say, well, we want to price it up here so we have room to fake haggle.
Right. Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
Right.
Down.
We're going to fake haggle. Yeah. We really want, $1,050,000.
Right.
But we're going to do 115 because we want that 100,000 so we can fake haggle.
Right.
So if they want to haggle, we don't really have to haggle.
Right.
We can just say, okay.
Yeah.
They really just don't want to haggle, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Now buyers, on the other hand, it's a little bit different. The idea when you're buying something and haggling for that is a little bit more commonplace, but still most buyers don't want that. And I think that's one of the reasons, amongst other things, why people don't have home ownership strategies in place. So we're going to talk about, when does it make sense to rent versus own, right?
Yeah.
And so, in order to have a good retirement strategy, a good investment strategy, you have to have a home ownership strategy. You have to plan to own some place where you're going to live at some point.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're renting forever, which means that you are basically beholden to that for the rest of your life. What are rents? What is my landlord nice? Did my landlord die and now they're selling the place? Did my landlord just decide to sell the house? At some point, you're going to have that issue. So, when does it make sense to rent? Well, it makes sense to rent when you don't. Let's say
it can make you laugh too, Gary.
It makes sense to rent when you don't know where you want to be. So okay, I don't know where I want to live yet. I just came to San Diego. Let me rent in North Park or downtown, in the suburban areas, whatever. Go, rent in an area until you find a place you're like, what, this is it. This
Get
is
comfortable.
home.
See what's there. Yeah,
see what's there. Yeah, survey the place.
Or more importantly, maybe you find out you hate it, and you're like, let me try something else, and you didn't just go by there.
Correct. Yeah, you don't want to just go by without knowing, right? So you don't know where you want to be.
Okay.
Then you rent. But when you rent, and renting's okay. In my opinion, it's okay. But you have to have a home ownership strategy in place, which means that you're saving money.
Right.
So if you can afford $3,000 a month, don't go rent a place that's $3,000 a month. Rent a place that's $1,800. Put aside a G or the $1,200 a month.
Right.
Now you're actually, because what that money is, it's as if you own a home. That's going towards the equity of your future house.
That's smart, yeah.
So now you don't own a home yet, but it's as if you do.
How many of you guys do this out there? Please let me know, because this is genius, but I don't think renters do that. I think they will push themselves. Also because our rental rates are going up and up and up.
That's the hard part.
8% higher than we were last year. And that's significant.
When I talk to buyers, and I talk to buyers on a very regular basis, multiple a day usually, and most of them are okay. They're comfortable paying their rent, and sometimes that rent's $2,500 to $3,500 a month.
Yeah,
they're comfortable paying that, and they want their mortgage payment to be in that range as well. But because the rent is so high, they haven't been able to save a lot.
Right.
So they're talking minimum down payments. So what that does is it handcuffs you on a couple fronts. handcuffs you on the front of what purchase price you can get.
Right.
It handcuffs you on the payment. withholding that payment into that level with a low down payment is more difficult because of mortgage insurance and so on and so forth.
Sure.
So you just have less options available to you, less flexibility
Right.
in what you can buy. So for the smartest thing you can do is put yourself in a position where you are in control, where you can save up. Now you don't have to save up a 20% down payment. Okay,
Right.
You don't need to. But wouldn't it be nice if you did have that and then you chose to put less down because you had a home ownership strategy that made sense,
Right.
versus, well, the only way I'm getting into a place is if I just do minimum here and I clean up my savings. You don't want to be in that situation.
Right, and interest rates are so low. Like there are a
rates
lot
are
of
so good right
they're
now.
like 3.875. I thought last.
Under 4% again.
So just for that reason, people should take advantage. The cost of borrowing money is so cheap that if you can, or if you're in any position near the possibility of doing it, then you should, I think, just because of the write-offs in general. So look at it this way. The average rent for a 2-bedroom in San Diego is $2,500. The median home price is right under $6,000. If you put 20% down, you're financing with your principal, property taxes, interest, and taxes, you're almost at about $2,500. So it's the same.
Yeah.
You just need to have the down payment. And in this case, what Derrick was just saying, you don't even have to have 20%.
No.
So you can do 5, you can do 10. There are
You can do
programs.
3.
Yeah, you can do it in your FHA and all of that too.
Yeah, 3.5 with FHA.
So I feel like there's so many possibilities out there. My concern is that buyers get hung up on exactly where they want to be. So they can rent maybe in La Jolla, and then they're like, well, now I want to buy in La Jolla. And I'm like, well, now hang on. You kind of don't turn 16 and get your Maserati. You kind of work up to that, right? So you might have to go a little north or a little inland or a little south for those couple years to rough it. What roughing it is really just letting your house appreciate and make you money while you're working at a 9-to-5 job, or your regular job making you money. So it's another way to offset that, and then that second or third home becomes that La Jolla home or whatever location you like.
It's an interesting triangular problem, what you just mentioned, because a lot of times people will rent in an area that they cannot afford to buy.
Yeah.
And that's what keeps them from buying, is that they go, well, we can never afford here, but we don't want to leave here.
Right.
And the person they're renting from bought the house 40 years ago, so they think they're stealing money from you with the
Right.
rent that they're charging you. And they're perfectly fine to rent it to you for $4,000 a month, when if you bought the place, your payment might be $10,000.
Right.
So this happens.
Yeah.
This is why sometimes for people who want to live in a luxury lifestyle, it does
Right.
make sense to rent. Like, hey, if you could afford that $10,000 a month payment, but you don't want to make it, then you can rent it for $4,000, but put the $6,000 aside. That's the thing. You've got to put the money aside.
Right.
If you do that, it's okay. The best thing to do would not be to rent in La Jolla in the first place. It would be to go rent it wherever else where you can actually afford, and find a place that you like, and look at how much less your rent's going to be. Look at how much you're going to save. Look at how much you're going to have for
better
down
cost
payment.
of life, or whatever, freedom in life to go out and do things. If you max yourself out, they say your housing expense, rental or ownership, should be about 30%. So look at it that way, monthly.
Mm-hmm.
So look at what you make monthly, and that's where I think you should start. And I think a lot of people might realize, like, oops, I'm a little higher than that, which is fine. San Diego does have higher, cost in general, but we're still the cheapest county in all of California.
Right.
But I understand that, that's harder to do here.
Overall, this place is on sale, though. I mean, like, comparison to the other markets.
All day in and day out, all day long.
Like, and I had, Pete Middleton.
Yeah.
I had Pete on the show last week, and we were talking about luxury real estate across the world.
Yeah.
And he was just like, man, San Diego's the Costco of real estate. He's like,
Yeah.
it's just crazy.
Yeah.
If you look at these other markets where buyers are coming from, international money. Mm-hmm. My concern for San Diego is the same that it's been for a long time, which is that, over the course of the next 20 years, it will become impossible to buy because the prices are going to go up. They'll probably double. In the next 20 years, prices here will probably double.
I mean, they've doubled every other. That's kind of
Or
how it
more.
works. I think about when my dad bought his first house for $8,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that was a push then.
Right.
The man's almost 87, but that was a push. And 10 years later, was it 16, 20, 30? It's manageable if you are smart about saving it. And I think that what you mentioned about that strategy and trying to stay a little under your budget and then putting that money aside. So not like keeping it there that you can, go and splurge on like actually setting it into another account or having it withdrawn separately is a smart thing to do. And, parents are always, I find a lot of first-time home buyers, and even second, get a little help from parents, and that's totally fine and okay, I think.
Yeah,
And
it's okay.
absolutely, if they're willing, that's wonderful.
Totally okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, the main thing is just, we've got to get clear about what's cool here, right? Is it cool to live in La Jolla for a few years and then face reality? Or is it cooler to like have the discipline to be like, you know what? This is actually the smartest thing to do for me and my family. And I'm not sending warning shots here or anything. I think everyone knows at some point the market has got to. By the way, we're live on Facebook with Nadia Colucci. Nadia on the run, so you can drop your comments in here and say what's up, ask Nadia questions. You can ask me a question. You can tell me how cool my tie is or how red my cup is, whatever's clever.
Don't comment on my fuzzy hair.
But we, the truth is that we know that these cycles, they begin, they end. We have, beginning, middles. We're definitely, I would say, towards the end of a cycle here. I mean, we've been up for how many straight years? Up, 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 up. We're seeing the market level off a little bit. What's next? Okay, so we don't know. We don't know. Market could go up another 10%. It could go down 10%. We don't know. But I think it's really a good idea right now to let's get smart again. The thing that happens, and it doesn't matter how good the economy is. It doesn't. This is one thing that if I was the president's advisor, I would tell him, hey, I know that you're talking about how great the economy is and how low unemployment is and all that stuff, and that's fantastic. But what you're not realizing is that the average person will still screw it up. Financially, we have problems. Like Americans, we have problems. So if the economy is actually good for a long period of time, all that does is gives us false confidence. People will go out and start borrowing money. People will go out and start buying things they shouldn't. And they'll just say, oh, throw it on the credit card, we'll pay it off next month. Don't worry, we're cool. So eventually, we'll screw it up. No matter how good the economy is, we will overspend.
That's really sad. I have a little bit more faith
It's
in
true.
my peeps, but you're right.
That's
a majority will. A lot will. I don't know about majority, but a lot will.
Vast majority. That's why it's called the short-term credit cycle, right?
Yeah.
And it's because we know that no matter what, after a certain period of time, people will screw it up. So
let's educate them not to.
That's what I'm trying to say right now.
Listen.
Right now is, hey, things are good. Get sharp with the pencil now.
Yeah.
Let's not wait until things are bad. Get sharp right now.
Right.
Take a look at the expenses. Take a look at where you're living. Take a look at your situation. And let's make a roadmap for how you're going to get to where you want to go.
Yeah, just a little budget. It's not too complicated. And
it's really not.
And I think what's unfortunate sometimes is we have this like error of, well, it's a little arrogant. Like, well, I deserve this, so I'm just going to take whatever I can. Versus like, maybe let's go back a little more traditionally, conservatively at how people earned it, how you work towards something. Not like I deserve this because, well, just because I do, because I'm here and because I lived in this location or I have this job. So I think do you follow what I'm saying?
Totally.
Like there's just something that kind of an air that people have. They're like, well, maybe it's I want it. And I'm like, well, I want a lot of things too, you know what I mean? But I don't run out and get them.
Yeah.
You look at it and say, okay, well, maybe next year I can do this if I do this year. I'd like to think that most of the clients that I have are very, very well educated. And if they're not even educated, they at least have that common sense to be a little bit more conservative. I have a few buyers that have been waiting for a while. They've always been waiting to see what happens. I'm like, we've talked about this for 4 years. Had you have bought back then, you'd have 4 years of equity now. Right?
See, that's the problem.
I bring that with me when I walk around.
That's the biggest problem with waiting. Cost of waiting is so much more expensive than people realize.
They don't realize it. And I think people are nervous too. I think it's scary to make a decision. And I think now when you're selling a home to buy a home, my advice is sell it so you have the money ready to go so that you're not making a contingent offer, because most sellers would not want to take that if they don't have to, and they usually don't. So to be a stronger buyer, but that means they have to say bye to one without knowing what's ahead. And I said, well, worst case scenario, you can rent. Mm-hmm. You're not committed to that either. Well, I want to rent in this area and then I'm going to blow this money. I'm like, well, then don't rent in that area. Rent here. You know it's not permanent. And this way you'll be ready to go. A lot of people think, the holidays slow down. They do a little bit, but not enough. I mean, I would say by the amount of sellers that drop, the buyers drop. So we're still dealing with the same
pretty
numbers.
much the same market most of the times.
Yes.
Yeah, I think this fourth quarter will actually be really interesting as far as that's concerned. I think there will be more inventory, and I think it will be I think it's when the buyer's market will officially start.
Well, if you keep overpricing your homes, that is exactly what will happen.
Yeah, no, I'm telling you that. I mean,
100%. We talked about this I think 4 or 5 years ago. I was on, and we said, are sellers being too greedy? And we're like, yes, they are, a little bit.
Yeah.
You guys need to like just chill a minute. You'll still make the same amount, but buyer has to feel like they're winning. And then, like you said, by overpricing it, you end up lowering the market as a whole. And that's what happened. People were paying over appraised value. It was a little too much. Now, again, it's still cheap to borrow the money. So a buyer might say, I'll pay 10 grand over. I paid over, I think, in some ways. And I was fine with it because I'm like, let me think about this. I'm probably going to be here. Well, I'd like to leave my house in a body bag, honestly. I don't ever want to move again. I hate moving. But let's just say I'm there for 10. I mean, a cute body bag. But pink.
Like
That's
a pink
good.
one?
Yeah, or teal. I don't know. We'll see. I've got time, hopefully, to decide. But anyways, I think that if you plan on living in a home long enough, so 7 to 10 years is always my goal with my buyers. I'm like, just plan on that. It's usually enough for a cycle, but plan on that. If you make money faster and you can get out, great. But if that's the case and you overpaid, what do you think you overpaid? 20 grand? All right, well, now let's talk about that 20 grand spread over the course of 10 years, plus your equity, plus your write-offs from having a home that you actually owned. And let's talk about the fact that $3,500 a month in rent is what, 80 grand? I mean, there's your money right there.
That's the trouble. That's the trouble with the cost of waiting, because if you are, and I call it the buyer triangle. You'll have to come to my next seminar.
Okay.
It's called the buyer triangle. And
Okay.
so the way that it works is you have where you are today.
Okay.
You have the house that's in the location that you want.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the house that you want. So I don't know if you can see that. It's probably too bright.
So
here.
what's it say? Up
Can you
here
see
it
it?
says where you are
Yeah,
here.
so that's where you are. And then you have two choices.
What does that say? Local?
Locale.
Locale.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
fancy.
Oh, it's very fancy.
And then house. Okay, got it. I just helping
So
out.
you have where you are right now. You have the house that you want, which is
Right.
not in the location you want, which you
Okay.
can afford. You have the location that you want, not the house that you want. Okay, because it's trying to stay within your budget. This is the decision that most buyers are facing.
Okay.
Is, okay, I can't get the house I want in the location I want. So I have to make a choice. Do I want the house? Do I want the location? Or do I stay where I'm at? If where you're at is renting and you do not have a home ownership strategy in place, your cost for waiting is so much. Even if you're only paying $2,500 a month in rent, it's 30 grand. The bet that you're making when you wait another year is that both of those homes that you're choosing from now will both go down $30,000 in value, and interest rates will remain as low as they currently are.
Mm-hmm.
If either one of those things doesn't work out, then what happens is you have lost. And for people who've been waiting for 3 or 4 years, they've lost every single year. They've lost so much money waiting.
Yeah.
That it becomes gigantic. It gets into the 6-figure realm. And then also when you watch, not only have I lost that money in rent, it's just gone. Could have gone to my house, it's gone. But also I watched property values go up.
Yeah.
So not only did I lose on this side, I lost on the appreciation as well. It's a double whammy. Mm-hmm. You've gone nowhere, but time has elapsed. So instead of having 26 years left on your loan and $100,000 in equity, and all, you're just still sitting in the same spot. So it's actually very risky. The riskiest thing that you can do is actually wait. Once you know where you want to live and you know how much you can afford, you should be pulling the trigger.
Absolutely. Especially when the median, I go back to this, it's shocking to me. The median home price allows for you to pay most likely what you're paying in rent. So if you're losing that opportunity today, then maybe this can serve as a reminder, like, you know what, I need to set aside $1,000 a month. I mean, on average, you're probably making $8,000, right? So if you could afford that, that's 30%-ish. Where else is that money going?
Yeah.
I mean, there's probably some debt. That's great to pay off, absolutely. But I think the saving is the most important thing so that you can get out of that triangle, or at least be on the right side of it.
Yeah.
And you know, have that value as well and that wealth. The economy is doing good. Our interest rates are low. You know that today. You can only make decisions based on what you have today. Not a lot of ifs. You can wait for ifs, but I think they totally can backfire, unfortunately, as a lot of people can attest to.
No question. And that was kind of the point of the buyer triangle. What's up, Ann? What's up, Cameron?
Hey.
How y'all doing? We are
What's up,
live here on
guys?
Facebook, and you can drop your comments if you want to. But this triangle, so the whole point of this was to get people to understand that we're here, you know, based on a few criteria, is kind of the worst decision. So you need to pick.
Yeah.
Do you want the house that you want, not in the location you want? Or do you want the location you want, not the house you want? You need to make a decision.
So let's trigger it with location, location, location.
That's my opinion.
Right.
But some people, the house is really important. Hey, we have 5 kids. Hey, we have, we can't do the 3-bedroom condo. Or, hey, we really want space. Like, I work downtown. I want to be someplace where there's nowhere. I want no sound. I mean, so sometimes, you just can't have it all.
Right.
And so you have to, but point is, you have to make a decision.
Right.
And staying where you're at is a very risky one. It's much
I think
riskier.
it's riskier, than
than it
making
sounds.
a decision.
Right.
Actually, to go either way.
To go one way or the other.
Right. Schools are also really important, I
Super.
think, as well. That's a driving factor I've noticed more so sometimes in location, except that good schools and good locations kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah.
So if you're a young family starting out, I would say the school, it's preschool, kindergarten, not, the 1st through 6th and then 6th through 8 and high school. Your elementary and middle may not be as important because maybe you can do a 3 to 5 year stay in the house, grab some equity, and then move to the next place. So if you're a younger family, I think you can be a little riskier by not selecting the most perfect location.
100% agree. And I've been coaching people on exactly that. Like, hey, you don't have any kids, plan to have kids for a couple of years.
I've been coaching people on this.
You've got like 8 years.
Yeah, you got plenty of time.
Which is a lot before
Yeah.
you're going to need schools to go and, hey, go to the city council, go to the planning commissions, go to these places. The money is allocated years in advance for improvements in schools, improvements in roads, improvements in all that. You can go and see where all that money is headed,
Right.
and make a smart investment decision.
And by the way, I've been around long enough that San Marcos High School didn't used to test well or do well in any way, and now it's one of the top schools. So, and I can explain why, but that doesn't matter as much as being able to position yourself to take advantage of an area and make some equity for X amount of years, then move on to the next area, maybe the one that the location is a little bit more important to you. And then you can actually, on your triangle, you can toggle between the bottom two and not stay at the top where it's the riskiest. At least you made a decision. At least you have something you have an asset. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you're sitting up here and you're renting, you don't have that. Your landlord does, though.
You need the home ownership strategy.
Thanks to you.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
You need the home ownership strategy. It's got to be in
Yes,
there.
for sure.
And that's the thing that's missing. Also, I don't think people realize that there are some really great deals out there. I'll give you an example. This one was one of the better ones I've seen, but it was a 4-bedroom, 2.5-bath condo in West Poway.
Great school.
$445,000.
Jeez, that's awesome.
And it
That's
was
amazing.
updated and nice.
Yeah.
It's one of the sort of rectangular floor plans, 2-story condo.
Okay.
$445 for a 4-bedroom in Poway Unified School District West, like not far from the 15.
Right.
I'm looking at that going, this is a smoking deal for people who want to be Poway Unified who need 3 or 4 bedrooms.
That's amazing, though. And a condo. Some people will, retort and be like, I don't want to buy in an HOA. When there's a condo, that's, we've talked about that as well. But, even if you take your monthly HOA fees, you look at what it covers, you'd have to pay for that on your own if it was a house. Like, they're not all bad. They're super restrictive. They can be, I understand. But at some point, it's nice to share that responsibility if something were to go awry.
Sometimes it's nice because in this situation, you're $445 price point in West Poway, and you've got a pool and other stuff like that.
It's amazing.
So
you'll need the pool. It's a little hot out
yeah,
there.
you're not going to, just your landscaper, and if you had a pool in your next place, just that right there would be your $400. So
For sure.
Is it a good deal?
Your limited liability for roof, your exterior building maintenance, those are usually covered by that. So there is a savings there for sure. Maybe it's $100 out of pocket for it, but then that $100 allows for the convenience of sharing responsibilities with a lot of other people and electing, these 6 people to make decisions.
We could probably go on and do a whole show about HOAs, how to investigate them and make sure that they're liquid and that they're being properly run before you buy in an area, because it does matter.
It does.
There was a special assessment in the complex I live in where everybody had to chip in $50,000 and do all this stuff, and it's like a yikes. And the HOA fees went from like $400 to $700 a month.
Jeez.
So it's a nightmare situation.
It can be. I'd say at most just being a little involved. You don't have to be like a member of the board, but read the minutes that they send. Go to a meeting. What is it? 20 minutes of your time. This is protecting your asset. So it's important to go and voice your opinion and make a decision if you don't like it.
I have another deal for you.
What?
We saw one in Serra Mesa.
Okay.
Should be on the market now, actually. And it was under $550, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom. I think it's right under 1,500 square feet. Nice little 3-2, little yard, fence, updated. Not like completely remodeled, brand new everything, but updated
Yeah.
nicely, for the 550 range, under 550.
That's great.
I mean, 92124, great location.
Yeah.
Really good schools. 550.
550.
I-
That's actually under the median
Folks.
for San Diego.
Yeah,
Really
and
good.
is it a great location?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like there are opportunities out there. I just don't think people necessarily realize it, because here's one of the things that has happened with technology is because it's all out there. It's all on Zillow, Redfin, Realtor, whatever.com.
Yeah.
It's all out there. People believe, especially on the professional side, that consumers have access to that. So they already know.
Right.
They assume that because the information's there, they already know. But they don't have time. When someone has to go look at properties, like a couple, okay? Like if me and my wife were going to look at properties together, we'd have to schedule a time. We'd have to set aside hours. There's so much to go through.
It takes a lot. Well, hopefully you have the right professionals around you to
Hopefully.
help guide. I have a good one coming up that I'm working on in Allied Gardens. That's another one that's
Oh.
going to be great location.
Awesome.
So, I mean, we've all mentioned inland ones. I do still believe there's plenty coastal as well. I think a little north and south sometimes. People don't want to do that. Again, you're roughing it for a few years to get to that place that you want to get to. That's super important, I think. We have like the one in Allied Gardens I was saying is a great one. It's off Waring. Like that's another amazing location.
Brilliant.
And it's going to provide for a family or young couple to get started and enjoy for many
Do you
years.
remember when people used to call that like East County? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Like La Mesa? Oh, it's all the way out in La Mesa?
Yeah,
You know?
that's my state.
I mean,
I mean, state's a great area now. I will.
But isn't it more
community-
central now? I mean, like the consensus is
Well,
that that's
yeah,
more
because
central.
the community has grown. It's spilled out into East. So now there's really an East County. That's not East County, right?
I
Like
think you
said,
have to get to
central.
El Cajon
Yeah,
before we're talking
before-
East County. That's
yeah.
my opinion now, because I feel like La Mesa,
Yeah.
access to downtown.
Yeah. Well, La Mesa's like it's hard to get into. La Mesa's already top. I feel like it's a highly requested one, if you will.
Totally.
Yeah.
And also seen some great deals in La Mesa, by the way.
Yeah.
Houses under 600 grand, like completely redone, awesome 3 and 4 bedroom houses. I've been looking over there quite a bit.
It's a nice little area.
It's so awesome. And
Yeah.
they put a lot of money into the downtown. It's just, there's opportunities just everywhere. I just don't think I think the thought is it's too expensive and it's just like a curtain.
So
you
let's help educate people. I think the number one thing for a buyer to do, especially one that's renting and contemplating getting out of that triangle and doing the homeownership plan, to execute for their future, is to talk to a lender. And a lot of times people don't even know where to start there. If you don't even know one, ask your realtor. I'll give you a ton. I'll give you some not to work with, but I'll also have great recommendations. They'll just take the time to look at your stuff and say, hey, you may not be ready today to get the number you want, but here's the plan for the next 9 months to do this. And maybe there's a little, blip on the credit report that you have from college. You forgot to pay a, SDG&E bill, or when you're, I don't know, at
A
state.
parking ticket.
Oh God, a parking ticket. Yeah. Any little thing like
Yeah.
that. They'll help you go, okay, here's how we're going to address it. Here's what we got to do. I get it. It's annoying. I've bought homes. I've sold homes. I understand how complicated it is to go through the loan process, but it's so worth it. 100%. It educates you. No one can take that from you when you have that little piece of education that you can now turn around and double your money. You're making money at a job, and yet your home is also making you money at the same time, right?
And more importantly, in the way that I look at owning a home is more of a hedge
Yeah.
than an
Well,
investment.
that's
I know you can always make money on a hedge, and people do it all the time. Hedge funds,
Yeah.
But really, what you're doing is you're hedging your expense. You're saying, hey, listen, this is now my housing expense. Doesn't matter what happens in the market. Market could go up or down. Rents could go up or down. Doesn't matter. I'm saying I'm locking in right here. Boom. There's my payment.
Right.
And so there's a lot of comfort in that, I believe. One of the things that makes people even more nervous than buying a home is when they start to realize that they don't have any control over, being a tenant. And, especially people with kids. I've talked to a lot of single mothers and things like that lately, and they that mother instinct really is hardcore.
Right.
And if you don't feel like you have a nest for your kids,
Sure, that panic.
it's a very, very uncomfortable feeling, and it can quickly get, cause a lot of anxiety and things like that.
Unnecessarily. I actually have really great friends who have a toddler, and she was pregnant, and their landlords are like, hey, we want you guys out. And they're like, what? And she's due, like, around the time of the move. She had that's an extra stress level that, and I'm after you guys, if you know who you are, that they should, quickly in this situation, they didn't have a chance to buy. Like you said, it takes time. But with the right professionals around, I mean, Ann and I, when we get a client, we'll go through and we'll send them select ones. Everyone's looking on every website out there. I get that. But we'll say, hey, this one's a great one. Let's go look at this. We'll go through and FaceTime the property or video the property or have them on FaceTime to look at it. It takes sometimes losing a couple to maybe jump a little quicker, but I might take your wife a couple times first. She can eliminate, you trust her, then we bring you out if you're the busier one, or vice versa, but it's great to also have like 3 videos from us and say, oh, we like this one, oh, we don't like this one, and it saves your time. We don't mind doing it. That's what we do. We're running up and down this county freaking all day long anyways. Nadia on the run.
Now let me ask you a question. When you take the video, do you do vertical or do you do horizontal?
Horizontal.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, right?
We can still be friends.
Speaking of, I just saw that a realtor out in Canada that I've worked with.
Fernando?
Yes, thanks,
What's up,
Fernando.
Fernando?
Hi, buddy.
How you doing, brother?
Thank you.
Thanks for commenting, my friend. And hey, don't forget to share this video with your friends. Make them smarter than everyone else. And check out Nadia on the Run. Great to have you, darling.
Thanks, honey.
Good to see you.
Great, you too.
Have a great day.
You too. Thanks.